Effy, thank you so much for speaking with me today. I am just delighted to speak with you about. We have a variety of topics to get into today, but
Yeah,
especially the Big Gay Brunch. But first off, I want to say you were like a dream interview for me, not only as a gay wrestling fan, but as someone who is an interviewer. You were a wonderful talker, and it's not just in interviews. That promo against Mance recently, so good. Where did you kind of get that
thank
gift of
you.
gab? Where did you start learning you can talk some crap?
I've had to say that like I've kind of been a public speaker forever. I was voted to be the high school graduation speaker for my class. They have the valedictorian, and then they're like, we also need someone to entertain. So I did that, and then I kind of realized in wrestling, I do Twitch streams every week where I'm doing commentary over a lot of matches. I do a podcast every week where I'm talking, and it's kind of something that's forgotten in wrestling where I think the promotional material, your ability to sell a story is sort of as important as when you get to the match. Like, what are people expecting? What are people going to see? Do they understand the story that's going on? And being able to sort of guide people with your own words and thoughts is a more creative way to get the story once it's in the ring and once the conflict is actually happening to make sense to them versus it just being, okay, yeah, they did some cool tricks.
I think you balanced it perfectly there. I love my cool trick wrestling. It's great, but also I want to care. It's like a movie.
Yeah.
I'm a movie critic. If I don't care what's happening, then why am I watching this?
Yeah, I did some cool tricks last week, but also there was a bigger story at play. Bobby Flacco put me in this move during the Rumble where, he's riding me almost like a bicycle and then he gives me a poison rana. And I had a few people come up after and say, like, we didn't even know you could do those sort of things. And I kind of like having these tricks in the back of my pocket where at the beginning of the day, I'm a storyteller. At the end of the day, I want to surprise you a little bit with the wrestling too and have you sort of uh feel like maybe, oh, well, Effy's just the gay wrestler, Effy's just this. There's not much I can't do in the ring. I just don't always have to do all of it.
Well, that's the best kind of the show to go to. If I saw everything you could do in one weekend, why would I want to return?
Right.
Yeah, no, you
Right. Something new
perfectly.
every time.
I mean, and you do something new every time. I think you're on your eighth Effie's Big Gay Brunch,
Well,
and it
so
has the oh
it's the
oh
eighth in the United States. It's the ninth, technically, if you include the one that we did in Liverpool last year. And then,
oh.
so after this, the 10th in Philly, I think I might do one more after this, but I'm also at a point where I'm like, the beginning mission of this whole thing was to sort of make wrestling feel a little gayer, to sort of put a spotlight on wrestlers that weren't being booked properly or weren't getting to showcase their skills in the right way. And it's been a really awesome journey, but also I have found myself being kind of more booked than a lot of my peers, and then still running these shows. So I'm kind of hitting a wall a little bit, if I'm going to be completely honest. So, I'm hoping someone else will sort of step up and take it away from me. I don't think this is the end of gay wrestling by any means, but I do think it's like, hey, let's go out with a bang instead of wearing myself thin to the point where I don't enjoy doing this anymore.
Well, you are truly living up to that Elton John entrance music with a retirement tour already for the gay brunch. I love it.
Well, and
No, this is
like I'm sure it'll be back, but it's like I have to take a breath. When we did the one in Chicago recently, I had just gotten back from Australia. I had
mm.
done 18 matches the previous month. I had shown up to Chicago and then done another two matches and then ran my show and then did a live podcast. And I was sort of looking around going, I think you're overworking yourself. My dad was a workaholic in a different way. And with wrestling and it being sort of a fun job, you sort of forget how much you were working. And then getting home that week after and sort of collapsing, I was like, what's wrong with me? And my roommate was like, nothing's wrong with you. You are wearing yourself to the point of, not being able to function as a human after you give yourself to these performances. And so I'm sort of just like finding my balance, especially with, the storyline stuff starting with Mance, with things getting to be a little messy with that. Uh, I punched someone in the face pretty hard during the Rumble, and they punched me in the face back. And we had a conversation after that was sort of like, hey, I'm sorry, I deserve that. But then I have Mance in the ring with me, and this man is just cold clocking me in the face 100 times. And you go, all right, well, I'm glad people are interested in the storyline. I'm glad we can do something that's elevated a little bit. This is going to be the most painful year of my life.
Yeah, can you survive the storyline?
Yeah, can I continue thinking after I get through this storyline? We will see. But yes,
Oh,
I'm excited to continue the gay brunch. I'm excited to return to Florida. I
well, I was
started
going to
in
say,
Florida.
we're happy that you are back in Florida. What are your Florida connections? I mean, I love that I'm from Tampa, so you're from
Yes.
you're from the Tallahassee area, which is I think the southern part of Florida,
Yeah,
which
it's
is not in the
technically
South.
South Georgia, if we're going to be honest.
Yes, absolutely.
It was like Florida decided we needed to take that part over so we'd have something a little bit less wild there. I think with Florida wrestling, there's a lot of it, but it's also a
Hmm.
place where a lot of people can get stuck, where a lot of people can't get out of the state. It's a very large state to escape. And I think coming back into the state, especially right now with, as much anti-trans hate as there is, as much anti-gay hate as there is, with the don't say gay bills, it's like the perfect time to come in and go like, no, you don't get to control us, and to put on a show, in Tampa, in a very gay town with, a lot of excitement going on. I mean, Gasparilla is later that day. I want
Hmm.
to go and throw, a joyous gay party that celebrates all of our culture, all of the LGBTQ people, and gives people a chance to come in and just be themselves and not have to think, they're at a Florida wrestling show where, yeah, they enjoy wrestling, but they probably should keep certain facets of themselves to themselves. We want to have that party. We want people to feel welcome, and we want to showcase, the wrestlers that have maybe not always fit in the box, maybe not always fit, in the mainstream televised wrestling world. And I mean, like today, for instance, there was a tag team talking about we're the best tag team in the world. And I'm sitting here going, you won't even have intergender matches. You won't even let women be in your match. You won't even face a tag team like me and Alley Catch that's made up of a man and a woman. It's very odd for people to go around claiming they're the best at something when we're featuring an entire group of people that are not included in your charts and included in, your best of the years unless we make our own. So I want to keep kind of putting that in their face and saying, you don't get to control us. We're very good at this as well. And there are people who would come to your shows if you made them safe and made them open and understanding, for them to feel comfortable at as fans, to be entertained and to have a good time.
You nailed one of my next questions was to describe Effie's Big Gay Brunch, and that's it. It feels like an inclusion. It feels like it's a fun time, and also you have an incredible lineup. I have some of the people here. I mean, like Dark Sheik, Billy Dixon, Ron Bass Jr., who is a personal favorite of mine,
I love
MXM.
him.
There's just so much great talent. What does it take for someone to get booked onto Effie's Big Gay Brunch? Like, what do you look for in a performer?
So I think, I like to point out that Effie means a lot of things, but Effie means effort. So in a lot of
Mm,
cases with these performers that are on the come up, I'm looking for people that have been putting in the work where they can. Obviously, these are a lot of performers who are not going to get the most opportunities. They are not going to get the best spots all the time, but getting to take them and say, you've been putting in the work, you've been getting in the cars, you've been showing up and helping at shows. For instance, with Ron Bass Jr., he was helping out this year at StarCast. He was, behind the scenes doing a lot of work at that show. And between COVID, between some injuries, between a lot of problems, we had a lot of people that couldn't make the show. And I said, Ron Bass Jr., come on, I need your help. And he was there to step up. He was there to fill any spot I needed him to fill. And he had a standout performance against Pero during that Twink Gauntlet, where Pero was eventually defeated by Baby Bop, if that makes sense. I want to be able to take these people who are putting in as much work as they can and maybe not getting the results so far, and put them in a spot where I go, here's how I can show you to the world in the best way possible. And also, here's me trusting you to show yourself to the world and not telling you how you're supposed to be. And so, I've got a few people coming down from the Effie's Big Gay Thanksgiving show that we did, Caden Pierre, Kaitlyn Marie, who they've been involved in a lot of shows. They've been involved in a lot of things locally. And I don't think they've gotten the big shine moment to get to show how good they are. And I had Allie Catch have a match with Kaitlyn Marie, and she got out and she was like, why have we not booked her? She's so incredible. And you're sort of like, because we haven't run across them yet. We haven't
yeah.
known yet. And now that we know, we have to tell people. So it's kind of awesome to be in that position where we can put people in that spot. But then there's the other side of it, which is, like you said, it is exciting. It's fun. I want it to feel like a gay party. I love the reverence aspect of, hey, look how far we've come. Let's honor gay people. But I also don't want to miss out on like how much fun it is to go to gay clubs, how much fun it is to be around gay culture, sort of the disgustingness of John Waters and the
Hmm.
nightlife and the fun and the music and the lights and the drag and all of these things. Having Pollo Del Mar host the show, who is a wonderful drag queen. She's been doing
Oh.
work with NWA. She's been doing columns with PWI. The manager of champions. Getting to have her hosting the show, you immediately know like this isn't a regular wrestling show.
Hmm.
This is the gays are in charge here. They're going to bring you the party. I want to obviously honor and respect what we're doing, but I also want people to go like, yeah, and also gays have more fun anyway. You're missing out if you're not coming with us.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and Polo did that great thing where she got to showcase the Briscoes and their journey of being more, it was just really cool. And just that's the whole thing. I think that moment there was encapsulating what this is about. Everyone's invited, but also it's gay and you're going to have fun. Like, please,
Right.
everyone's allowed to have fun. And I love that aspect. I think you make that feeling just with your booking, with your promos, you make that inviting feeling.
Yeah, and I think if you look at the work she does, she was doing a lot of hard work before, but when you kind of give people, hey, here's the go ahead, they have something to put their work into that they are getting behind. And I remember one of the first promos she did at the shows, I said, Brett, is it going too long? Because sometimes Brett is big on timing with Game Changer Wrestling, and he helps us out a lot. He helps me with the buildings, with the rings, with light. Like, there's a lot that he helps me with to make these shows happen. And he said, no, this is the good stuff. Let her go as
Mm-hmm.
long as she wants. And so to have that kind of, acceptance to, hey, I was worried that this is just too much time, and him going, this is the time that needs to be filled. It's lovely to see Pollo Del Mar getting that space to be her and to show the world this is what we do, and instead of putting in work to something that isn't going to give her the same results.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. And yeah, I think you speak true as a film critic always in an interview we're trying to find that place. You really speak to a lot of that artist, those doubts you have that, oh, I have the place now. Now my voice get to be heard. I love it. So I have a very inside the actor studio question for
All
you.
right.
What is a queer icon you would love to have brunch with? What's your Effie's Big Gay Brunch? Who's invited?
I mentioned him earlier. I have worked so hard to try to get John Waters to come to one of these shows. I
I
have bent
I
over
mean,
backwards trying to get him here. I know, I see it right there. I've been mailing things to him. I've been sending him 8x10s with written messages on the back. And I
uh,
understand, look, he's a busy guy, but I think he would love to see how much filth and wildness and gay energy that we are bringing to this. I
yeah.
mean, I got beat up by a sex doll at one of the shows. I've had Baby Bop beat up a giant hairy bear. I've done a lot of wild, weird things. And I think that it's very much in the vein of a John Waters-esque person. And obviously, you brought up the Elton John song. I come out to Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. And I like to remind people that I'm glad they like the song. That song is for me because that song originally is about people kind of inviting you somewhere and having you do your skill and wanting Elton to play at their parties and him saying, this is my art. This is not your art. You don't control it. I get to decide when it comes out. I get to decide what I'm doing with it, and I get to decide how it's performed. And so it's me kind of reminding myself as I enter every space, this is mine. You don't get it. You don't control it. I've never worked for any, major contract. I've never had anyone giving me instructions. I've had people behind me saying, we want to know what your ideas are. We want to know what you're doing, and we want you to come do it for us. And that has been wonderfully rewarding. And to now hear Elton John on one of the major TV shows for their theme song, I'm just saying there wasn't a lot of Elton John before Effy. And I would love to have Elton come out and finally give full permission so that when I do shows where they say you can't use that music, they're not as mad when I say, I'm going to use the music. You can mute it anyway. I'm not coming out to any other songs.
Mm. I love it. I mean, I think I hope Elton's a secret wrestling fan. I would love to know that. So I have one last question for you, and you kind of touched on not having contracts. I think the question always is what is a AEW, a WWE, any of these people looking for in a wrestler? What are you looking for in one of these companies? If you ever wanted to go, what would they need to do for Effie to go there?
I think that, part of the problem is I look at a lot of my friends who are signed to these contracts, and there does seem to be this idea that they are begging for space to perform their art. They're hoping to be told they can do anything. And there's a lot of people that are in charge there who, not to be too rude about it, have never drawn any money in wrestling, have never drawn people with tickets in wrestling. And I just can't accept that they're going to be the ones to tell me the correct things to do. And I think back through my career, and I went on a car ride the other day with a younger wrestler, and I was kind of running down a lot of things where I've been told I'm incorrect and that they worked out in the end. And so I've sort of learned that people are not going to always agree with what I think wrestling is. And because of that, I'm going to have to just trust myself. And I've seen a lot of success doing that, but I can't give up that control for,
Mhm.
let's say a little more money to have someone telling me what to do. I value my creative input, and I have seen too many results for what I've been able to do to sit around and wait for someone to tell me when they need me, to sit around and wait for somebody to tell me, where I might fit or things I have to change about myself to fit in. And I'm definitely not going to be told, that I'm not allowed to be on TV because of certain TV advertisers. Like I've heard about certain other people that have been in companies
Mhm.
where we can't put them on TV. The advertisers won't agree to it, but they keep them on contract anyway. it's a weird state that we're in now where, it's still a way where you can make more money being under a contract, and it would obviously be a little less work. I was joking recently that like I have chosen my rock and I am Sisyphus. I'm going to be pushing that rock up the hill forever,
Yeah.
and I have to get used to that. It is always going to be my work that gets me what I get. And sometimes that is frustrating. Sometimes I'd love to just see the paycheck come in, but I also am of the belief that I'm holding my cards for a reason, and that over the next few years, I haven't had trouble with distribution. I have people who know who I am around the world. I haven't walked into a building where I've been performing where people haven't known who I was for the past 3 years. That to me is something that's remarkable that we're not really looking at yet in professional wrestling. And just being able to increase that distribution going forward using the internet, using word of mouth, using that kind of grassroots, energy, I think I'm going to see, myself making even more money than I would under any contract. And I'm hoping eventually, if they want to come ask me for advice, that'd be wonderful. But I'm not going to go asking them for help, because what they're doing right now is losing viewers. They're, going for a particular segment of fans. They're not trying to grow the fan base. And I'm seeing at these shows where, yeah, and maybe it's only a few people at certain shows, but there are people coming to wrestling who have never come before. And instead of just saying, well, we're only appealing to people who already like wrestling, I'm showing them a version of wrestling that they can get behind that they've never seen before. And so I think, we're one of the small groups that's actually showing real growth in the fan base right now. I wouldn't give that up for anything.
What a wonderful answer. And I agree with you. GCW and that whole umbrella of everyone to me it's getting bigger and bigger every year. Effy's Big Gay Brunch, the GCW show that's the night before everything. It's a great spot. I'm just so happy that you're happy where you are because you're doing
Yeah,
it great and you are doing better than I think most people on a TV thing. I just enjoy your wrestling and your
thank
character
you.
more that I don't want to see it sanitized.
And I want to mention with GCW that one of the things that has been rewarding, and I brought it up before, and I think everybody who has been on the roster or come in can kind of attribute to, we're always willing to listen to each other. There's never one person with their hand on the hammer saying this is exactly how it has to go. This is a collaborative effort. We are all discussing what should be done. We are all pitching out ideas to see what the idea is. And for a company like that that just started in New Jersey, that, 4 out of 7 continents last year, 79 different shows, it's just a crazy sort of thing to see grow. And right now, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else, because I believe we're actually the last true outlaws. Wrestling to me has always been a little bit dangerous, a little bit wild, a little against the grain. And if we were appealing to TV advertisers, I think I'd be bored. Instead, we are doing whatever we want to do. We're not worried about whether, you have to cover your kid's eyes sometimes, or there's too much blood, or it gets a little too gay. We're giving you the version of wrestling that we think is out there. And for them, I will always appreciate GCW for
Oh, well, thank you so much, my John Waters of wrestling. You are
that.
amazing. It's great to speak with you. It's been an honor. So I can't wait for people to see Effy's Big Gay Brunch in Tampa. Check out in the description below are your local listings for the show. Thank you so much, Effy, for joining me.
Thank you.
Awesome.